What is happening out there, rotoscouts basketball fans? An on-time start promptly, 4 o'clock in the afternoon today. Of course, we're starting at 4 o'clock for a slate that starts at 7:30. Bonus half hour for everybody during lineup construction time, but not going to take it on this side. Figured I'd have a little bit more time to actually build lineups on a nice Tuesday. Hopefully not too much pandemonium going on with updates and everything, but it's nice to have that whole 6 o'clock hour at least clear and into the 7 to 7:30 hour clear. Helps get everything done for the website. It's a little chaotic when I'm trying to do my own lineups, trying to get everything up and running for the website. Things change 5 minutes before lock and all hell breaks loose. So hopefully none of that today. Seems like we've got a fair amount of our information already. Looks like I've got some cat hair on the top of my hat. Fortunately, there's no toothpaste in my beard. I just brushed my teeth a few minutes ago. Well, let's say hi to everybody. Cujo Blues here. What's up, Cujo? Ken Woodhouse is here. Nobody else has chimed in yet. There's a few other people hanging out so far. I'm sure some more will trickle in. We've got some new folks coming in around the edges. A lot of success, a lot of logos up near the top of standings. So success breeds success and growth and all of that fun stuff. Stephen Goads here. Stephen says, great call on Jordan and the Nuggets plays. Yeah, I think a lot of the Nuggets value was out there, but the Jordan one was the one I was happy about. What I was pissed about, and the reason I don't think I was at the reason that I wasn't at the top of the FanDuel board, had one real good chaser, had a couple other they're not going to get there, but that looks like a decent score kind of lineups. But when the Yurt 7 news broke, I decided going in, I had like 103 shares of Jordan, and I decided, let me diversify that a little bit, and I took 20, 22, something like that of those, turned them into Yurt 7 lineups. It actually added to my Zion share, it added to my Brandon Ingram share, but the Ingram didn't really work out. Zion was just good, not great, right on mean projection. So the pivot, I think, burnt me. I would have liked to have had those 22 additional Jordan lineups to see where they would have landed. But good night overall. A lot of stuff hit the way we thought it would. Obviously, that one broke the right way. Had that gone Zeke Naji in the starting role, which it didn't seem like to me it was going to, but had it gone that way, would have been a completely different story. But yeah, what's up, Steven? Thank you for calling that out, buddy, and hopefully you did well with it. I'm doing well, Cujo. How are you doing? Quiet day. Got up early, got the projections knocked out early, knew we had a good day of basketball only, so I could get into it and spend some time on the slate today. Had some changes to deal with through the day. Big piece of news during the day, obviously, was Jimmy Butler not going to play tonight. Bam Adebayo and Dunk Robinson are both probable in that game. It's a little chaotic. Haywood Highsmith is questionable. We've got him in right now. If he doesn't go, I think we're okay. I think it just creates kind of a few additional minutes here, a few additional minutes there for guys who are already in the projected rotation that I've got. Maybe like Thomas Bryant steps in and picks up a couple additional minutes. Kevin Love plays more just traditional 4. But I do think that if Bam doesn't go, all hell breaks loose. If Dunk Robinson doesn't go, we can get okay with that. But if Bam happens to not play tonight, in addition to Jimmy not being out there, that's going to be all kinds of chaos, and obviously is going to create a whole hell of a lot of value. We've got some good sims that ran. Hopefully they'll be in place for the entire show. Hopefully we won't have any crazy changes that will come through and wipe out the rest of the sims here. The rest of the injuries that we're dealing with, Keegan Murray confirmed out during the day. We were expecting him. He was doubtful. Cam Thomas was doubtful coming into the day. LaMelo Ball was also doubtful. All 3 of those guys are confirmed out. Kristaps Porzingis also out. Jalen Johnson out for an extended period. Everybody who's been out, basically, is out. Any of the extended absences. Questionables, Alex Caruso and Zach LaVine and Drew Holiday are still big questionables. Chris Middleton, a little bit less important, less impactful of a questionable. Just a minor uptick to, a few downboard guys if he doesn't go. But that's, what do we have him for? I think 24 minutes, something like that. Where is he on here? It's really unimportant. We could talk about it when we get there. I don't know why I started looking for it. Yeah, whatever. Whatever I've got him for would get distributed out across a couple obvious guys. Dennis Smith Jr., questionable. Derek Lively and Keon Ellis. I think I saw Keon Ellis not going to play. Did I see that? Pretty sure I took Keon Ellis out. So Freddie VanVleet was a biggie. He was questionable early in the day, but confirmed in. Ton of minutes, obviously, for VanVleet. I guess I didn't. I guess I'm making that up with Keon Ellis. I thought I'd seen that he was out and I had taken him out, but I'm hallucinating, obviously. Anyway, he's questionable. Mellow out. What else am I missing? Take Keegan Murray. We got all of those. Hit the questionables, probables. Derek White, probable. If you had the situation with no White and no Drew, we could get interesting there. I don't expect that. But that obviously creates a completely different situation there. We would see probably an uptick around Peyton Pritchard. We would see an uptick around Sam Hauser would probably pick up just minutes and some rates. Delano Banton would get back into the action probably. Hopefully we would go Pritchard, not Banton, in the starting unit. But yeah, that would get interesting if both those guys were out. Derek White's probable, though, so he should be in. Drew is the more questionable one. Outside of that, it seems like a pretty straightforward night, so we got to watch the Celtics, a little bit of the Bulls. Everybody else, keep an eye on the Heat, but seems like we know what we need to know about the Heat already, except for Haywood Highsmith, maybe. But let's get into this thing. What's going on, guys? Matthew Patterson's here. Matthew Patterson's drafting a ton on underdog today, trying to see who I want to go way overweight on. All right. Hopefully we can get there through this. I don't really do anything on underdog other than follow them on Twitter and use their injury reports and retweet their stuff and everything. They're great on that. Powers here. What's going on, buddy? Been killing it in NFL. NBA's been whooping my ass. I've been doing well in both, or liking my results in both. Had some wins in the NBA already, and some success in both so far. So hopefully it translates and the success picks up in NBA power. But love to hear it about the NFL, buddy. Mamba's here. What's going on, bud? Stephen Goad, all over it in NBA, in my opinion. Thank you, pal. Beantown's here. Kevin O. Michael Floyd. Michael Floyd found us through Ace Mind, digging the site out. Love it, buddy. Excellent. Yeah, we're doing a little cross promotion back and forth with the guys over at Ace Mind. I'll have their sims up in just a second. There they are. These win rates and top 1% brought to you by Ace Mind. AceMind.io. That's where I go for my sims. They've got an optimizer tool. They've got sims. Very friendly pricing. Some good people over there too. They're on it with customer service. Anything that comes up, just like that, you send a message in the Discord, and one of those lunatics is online, kind of like me, just 24 hours a day. So hit them up. It's a great site. With that in mind, this is sorted by DraftKings win rate. This is our starting point with just the entire slate, no positional sorting. Ignore James Bouknight up at the top of the board. I just gave him 6 minutes. He is available to play today. I actually thought that they had waived him, and he wasn't with the team. It turns out he was injured. I have no idea if he's actually going to step into the rotation. I can't imagine there's many minutes there for him, though. And he didn't come through Sims at all. For whatever reason, he might not be projected for ownership or whatever. So we can ignore him. But I just left him up there so that I could mention that he was maybe back, that he's available. But moving on from him, we've got some interesting results from site to site. One of the key guys, I think, of the entire slate, and we did get him confirmed in, like I said, Freddie VanVleet. I got him for a massive amount of minutes. I put him at 39. He's been playing ridiculous minutes most of these nights. He's averaging 37.4. He played 39 the last time out, put up 48.7 fantasy points. To get him where I wanted him, or where I thought he should be realistically for this game projection-wise, it's kind of where he needed to be without really forcing it through rates or anything. So I think that made sense. In a per-minute sense, I've got him right where I want him. Down on the board there. So overall, 0.99 FanDuel points per minute on the season, 1.02 DraftKings points per minute. 40% of winners on FanDuel, 30% of winners on the DraftKings slate. He is projected to be one of the most popular players on the board on FanDuel. A little bit less so, I believe, on DraftKings the last I saw. Where was he on DK? No, he's up there on that side too. He's just a couple ticks down the board, so I didn't see him right out of the gate when I put those sims together. But he's going to be really, really popular on both sides, and justifiably so with all the minutes that he's got available to him. And obviously just a pretty good player overall. That's a game where I've got them projected to pick up a couple of possessions. Talking about the game environments real quick that I didn't do at the top. That game, 228-point total, 4-point spread, reasonably close, reasonably high scoring. The high point on the entire slate is 237 between Atlanta and Cleveland. That game's a 4.5-point spread in Cleveland's favor in Cleveland. But we've got a couple premium scorers on the Atlanta side, so there is good reason to focus on that game and not worry that Atlanta's a underdog. Obviously, we don't really care about a 4.5-point spread. I do care about the 11.5-point spread and the 220.5-point total in New York. Charlotte, New York, no LaMelo going for Charlotte. It is problematic, but there are some affordable guys like Gordon Hayward will be at the top of the board that you guys are looking at. I'm looking at a different tab right now. So Hayward will be a value piece. I'm sure there's other guys that are staring me in the face as soon as I flip back over there that aren't coming to mind. But the Charlotte side will pick up some value. The Knicks side will show some value. I'm sure Jalen Brunson's doing well over there. But it's kind of a limiting impact. It's not like the Knicks really empty the bench a ton of the time. But you can see it if that kind of a point spread holds up. It could be that kind of a game. The Knicks also just play grindy. So I don't love that spot. But I do think there will be pieces on the board. Toronto and Brooklyn, 223-point total, close point spread, 1.5. There's obviously pieces on both sides of that game. OKC and Minnesota, 229 points, 3-point spread, that's not bad. Golden State and Sacramento, 236 with a 1.5-point spread. Sacramento favored by 1.5. That's kind of an interesting spot. That kind of a total, you can see that going back and forth and drawing down into the fourth quarter pretty close. So I kind of like that game. There's obviously some very high-end plays in that one. Draymond Green back for Golden State. Not that those two thoughts were necessarily connected. And then Chicago and Boston, 13.5-point total, 219-point total. 13.5-point spread, rather, 219-point total. And with Zach LaVine, Alex Caruso questionable on the Chicago side, and a couple question marks, big question marks on the Boston side with Derek White and Drew Holiday, that one could get a little messy. It could provide some values down board if both of those guys don't play for Chicago. But right now, I don't love it in terms of the game environment, the gigantic spread. I don't love what that does for the Celtics side. You could get a game like Embiid last night, right? He had a great game. Went out, put up 30, 11, and 11. Came out after the third quarter, never came back into the game because they were winning by 20 or whatever it was. So you could have that kind of a game, and you can absolutely succeed with that kind of a game, especially at the center spot on FanDuel a lot of the time. But it didn't work out for winning the tournament last night. Obviously, you had DeAndre go off for 50 whatever at 3,500. That was a game changer. It rendered the Embiid game completely irrelevant. Even if you had played the fourth quarter, it would have gotten interesting. But my point is, in big games like that, you could see a guy like Tatum put up a 50 and change in 3 quarters and then just be out of the game, play 3-4 minutes in the fourth quarter maybe, and just not be all that relevant late. And that has an impact. Just getting to his mean projection for a guy like that isn't going to do it. You need those guys, those really expensive guys, to crest over into those ceiling games. So we do want to kind of watch our backs with those sorts of games. Right now, that 13.5 points and only a 219-point total, too. That's a little bit alarming. But we'll keep an eye on where everybody lands in terms of where these sims are. Mama says it had 80% Embiid and barely min cash last night. Yeah, it was a problem if you weren't on those value plays at center for sure. Had he played the fourth quarter? No, don't do that to me, Chad. I thought people were responding. Travis is dialing in the sims from 150 feet up in the crane. Sounded like his headphones fell out or something. But yeah, we're here. So yeah, it was, having Embiid, had he played that fourth quarter, it would have gotten interesting. That would have been fun. But he didn't, and we move on. It was a monster game, though. Just shows how good he is, too. Trey says, I'm a complete newbie using Excel and XLOOKUP for all this technical shit, and he literally went through it with me over the course of the night. I can't recommend them enough. Is that Ace Mind? There you go. A little conversation about Ace Mind going on in the chat real quick there. Paul Millsap, thank you. Paul says, great content. I'm sure that we all get to discuss perceive all likelihoods of events occurring. I don't want to sound like a bot, but hey, it's good to brainstorm. Trey was just saying, Young explained XLOOKUP to him, right? That's just taking the time to explain something about Excel that Trey technically could have Googled. And if you are working with Excel, Google is a tremendous asset. You can just Google a lot of stuff and find great paths to it. But having people like that are just really, really sharp people who are willing to go to those lengths to help you, that's why I like those guys. They're willing to do that for their customers, where a lot of other places, in addition to the places that'll just tell you straight off to go screw, there's a lot of other places that'll be like, hey, look, that's not our product. That's an Excel question. Like, leave me alone. I got other things to do. As far as what Trey's saying, and in my experience, those guys do this for real. Just sat there with him and, like he says, literally went through it with him over the course of the night, and he's got it mastered now. And he's using it for NFL. He's using it with NFL and ETR's projections. ETR's projections, I'm sure, are very good for whatever they charge. Rotoscouts projections are free of charge. Travis, what's going on? Travis says, do you do anything with point differential mattering for in-season tournament? No, not something that I can quantify, not something that you really want to sweat, I don't think. You've seen numerous clips of the players not even remembering that that's the case in a lot of things. It obviously can change the outcome of a game. I had that happen in a very expensive way. So there is the case where it might matter. There's a case where I guess if a couple of teams are tied and point differential for one team is notably like 12 or something like that, they're trailing in point differential by 12, so they have to win whatever game they're playing and win it by 12 to advance, then maybe. I honestly did not look into those scenarios, so right now, no. If there's any scenario that's specific like that you are thinking about, maybe it's worth shouting out, and we'll look at that in comparison to like what the Vegas line looks like. Like if there was a situation like that in either the blowout spot or one of the close spots, maybe it gets a little interesting, but I really don't know exactly how to quantify it, Mamba says, can you add a download to all your projections so we can export them out into AceMind? You should be able to just, copy paste and drop it into Excel. There is a download module. It's more complicated than what I'm doing now. I think there's a monthly cost to it that I'll look into. I looked into it at one point back when I was just doing football, but yeah, it is more important for basketball. So I get it. So I'll take another look. If I don't bring it back up in the next couple of days, just remind me in chat, remind me in Discord. Jonathan Taylor expected to miss 2 to 3 weeks per James Boyd from The Athletic. Zach Moss, priority pickup in season long if he's available in your league. So just taking a look, at top of the overall board, that Golden State-Sacramento game, obviously we're seeing a few pieces there with Malik Monk up top, Kevin Huerter, Trey Lyles picking up some minutes at a very cheap price. Not a super high-end play, not a very high-end projection or player, and not a very high-end projection, but coming through just on value for Trey Lyles. Seeing a few pieces of the Cleveland side in that Cleveland-Atlanta game. Cleveland's just got like 4 guys who project out very well in basically every game. It's just a matter of sometimes which one of them hit and then what the game environment looks like. But I have no real issues going to them in that game. They're both Mobley and Allen are coming up at the top of the board here. Darius Garland not all that far behind, a little further down the board. A little bit of value right now around J-Rich in that Miami rotation. Dunk Robinson, assuming he plays. Kyle Lowry, assuming he's going to play. I've got him. What did I give him at the end? All right, I did put him back to 28. When I was going back and forth with some of those Miami minutes, I had him a little higher than that, but I'm glad I tamed him back down to 28. Some bonus in that Golden State-Sacramento game. What I'm not seeing really is, outside of Klay Thompson, which I don't love, Andrew Wiggins, which I don't love because neither one of those guys has been all that great this season for the most part. Not a ton of Golden State guys really cresting to the top here. A lot more Sacramento from that one. RJ Barrett, reasonably effective down here. RJ is what, 61 on FanDuel, 59 on DraftKings. The DraftKings price is pretty good for RJ Barrett. 15-ish, 14.3% of winners, 5,900, both forward spots. He's more valuable on DraftKings. Better point per dollar, obviously, but the positional flexibility across both forward spots is really interesting over there. This is just doing like the slate perspective, I guess. Cat looking a little bit more valuable on FanDuel, 85 versus 86. Basically doubles up his win rate. Bam, relevant on FanDuel, less so on DraftKings. All assuming that he plays. If he doesn't go, it's absolute chaos. Nobody else really creeping around down board. A lot of decently projected guys not really landing, like Trae Young. Speaking of that Atlanta-Cleveland game, look at that. That's surprising. We must be taking a lot of value at the point guard position. We'll get into the position by position in a minute, but that is surprisingly low win rates from Mr. Trae Young. Same thing for Chet Holmgren, Zach LaVine down bottom here. Nick Claxton not showing all that much relevance. Jakob Poeltl, Chris Paul. There's a key Golden State guy there, not really coming up all that strong. Interesting. Let's get into some positions. Let's take a look. I don't know if you guys spot any breaking news, by the way. I'll keep on reloading Underdog. The 4:30 is coming up in a minute, or in 8 minutes. Grayson Allen doesn't practice on Tuesday. Who cares? Nothing new. Nothing new in the last little bit, so that's good. Hopefully no crazy changes in the middle of the show. This can be fun, but I really do prefer, if I'm going to put my stamp on something, to have like a moment to figure it out where I'm not like, oh man, these people are just watching you just sit here in silence and watching the wheels turn. Not that I think you guys mind, but it's just like, all right, get to the answer, you know? So I like to be able to think about it for a second before I actually go out and put a stamp on something. So let's see. Nickeil Alexander-Walker showing some value on the DraftKings slate. A little bit on FanDuel, too. Played 34 minutes the last time out, put up 16.7. That's the kind of clunker that you can get out of Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I think we've all been there when we've gone to this kind of a play. Got him at 27 minutes tonight, 0.73 on the season, 0.71 on DraftKings. Just on value pricing, he's getting through in a lot of these lineups. I don't love Nickeil Alexander-Walker coming off the top of the board that early, I gotta say. It's a bit of a plus spot for them in terms of possessions. I got him like, that's like right on the line of his per minute rates. This is essentially 0.73. Yeah, I guess it is what it is. He's just cheap. That's going to be one of those just, not great, doesn't succeed a ton of the time, not a gigantic ceiling, but doesn't need one because he's so cheap, gets through on value kind of guys. Let's see who we've got that we can pivot to that might make us a little happier. 700 more. Josh Richardson, not really the same play on the FanDuel slate. That said, it's only a 4% difference in win rate on FanDuel, so if you can get there, that's probably worth doing. Not that Richardson has been necessarily better, 0.67 FanDuel points per minute versus 0.73 for Nickeil Alexander-Walker. On DraftKings, that's a more direct pivot. It's a $4,600 to $4,700 pivot, but it's 30% to 21%, so it's actually a bigger gap. The points per dollar, 4.32 to 5.03. So you're getting a better points per dollar play. You're getting a better projection. But for that extra $100, and I guess it's you might be getting a decent amount of Nickeil Alexander-Walker at the small forward position, just because in looking at those differences, that 9% gap. It's point guard, shooting guard versus shooting guard, small forward. So just thinking about the positionality, it might be just the case that we're getting Nickeil Alexander-Walker at the small forward spot. Wonder how that's looking. Let's see. There's a run of small forwards here who are all coming up 10% less. Probably getting him there. That's interesting. Freddie VanVleet, like I said at the top, monster minutes projection. I could easily shave that down to 37. It wouldn't really change things. I just wanted to be sure that he was looking where how he should look, and I didn't want to mess with the rates all that much. So right now, looking like a great play. Good chalk from the top of the board, and priced really well. 8,000, 5.21 FanDuel points per dollar, 5.27 DraftKings points per dollar, giving us basically a point a minute on FanDuel, a little over that on DraftKings. Hyper relevant on both slates, 40% win rate on FanDuel. Even if we took this down to, you could knock it down to 36, and he'd still be relevant. And I think he's going extreme minutes again. Herter, looking like a good piece of value, 2,800, 5,000. Just, and is who he is. Kind of a return for Kevin Herter, 0.92 FanDuel points per minute for 5,000. It's pretty good, 5.06 points per dollar. On the DraftKings slate, he's 5,800. He's a lot less relevant over there. He's a lot less relevant in a points per dollar sense, but he's coming up in 30% of winners. So I can't say he's less relevant. That's interesting, too. So you're probably getting like all of this at shooting guard, and then a lot of this at small forward. Some of these guys in, a mix, but a lot at small forward. To have Herter holding up that well at shooting guard is kind of surprising with a 4.51 point per dollar. But I guess nobody's cresting to that. Like he's a 26.1, 4.51 points per dollar is slightly better than $6,200 Duncan Robinson in that shooting guard spot. So Dunk's probably landing a little bit more in the small forward. 59, you're talking about a close call there. It's interesting. There's a big group of guys in this, call it mid-4s to mid-5s range at the shooting guard and small forward spots on DraftKings. Big group of guys because there's more down here too. J-Rich, Dunk, they're going to both have value. Both projected over 30 right now. Richardson played 36.7 in the last game. Put up 25.5 points. Robinson didn't play that one. Bam didn't play that one. Jimmy did play that one. Kind of a mess. Jamal Cain was the first guy off the bench. He had been in the G League until the day before the game. So we'll see how this one goes in Miami. But we're gonna wait to obviously if either Bam or Dunk Robinson doesn't go, it creates a lot of pandemonium. But especially if Bam doesn't go, as I've said. Clay is putting up 0.80 FanDuel points per minute so far this season, 0.85 DraftKings points per minute. 19% relevant on the DraftKings slate, same number on the FanDuel board. Shooting guard only 5,500 on FanDuel. Gives him a little bit of points per dollar life at that price, and he's got a little bit of positional flexibility. Not the best points per dollar play on the slate by any means. It does look like overall we're taking not like dumpster dive values, other than if you want to count Jayshawn Tate in that category. And maybe Nickeil Alexander-Walker, depending on what you think of him, but he's not really priced that way. 3,900 for Jayshawn Tate has him kind of relevant in that role. He's the only real low price among these guys. It looks like we're getting like a lot of mids in the shooting guard small forward spots on DraftKings. Probably a little bit more room for price on the FanDuel slate at the guard positions. You got some 10%ers down here where they're single digits over here. Some Dinwiddie, some of these guys through the middle here like Jalen Brunson, 22% on FanDuel versus 13% on DraftKings. $8,200 point guard on FanDuel. Solid 40-point projection for 36 minutes. He's a 1.07 FanDuel points per minute player this season. Put up a monster, 64.2 in the last game, 38.2 minutes. You could see it cool. You could see him not play full minutes. There's certainly no reason that they're going to run him 40 minutes tonight. Well, it's the Knicks, so they could easily disappoint, let Charlotte keep it close, and he has to play 40 minutes. But there's good reason to suspect he'll be more around his season average of like 35. 36, I think, is a fair spot to land him. Dimitri's in chat. What's up, Dimitri? What's going on? A little bit of talk about football lineups. Some good discussion in the Discord about football lineups, too, over the last day and a half. Ever since Cubs knocked down his 200K the other day. But Trey brought up using run backs, bring back plays against your stacks, and we were talking about that a little bit, and talking about how I like to grab wide receiver pairs when two high-end wide receivers are playing each other. A lot of good stuff going on in there. Linked in the chat in the description below this video, actually. If you aren't in the Discord already, click on that, hop in the Discord, join us. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. That helps you know when we go live. These shows are a little bit variable start time, so that'll help you out. Looking down the board, Caleb Martin could potentially be interesting today. I've got him at 31 minutes. Could certainly pick up a little bit of usage, a little bit of additional run. 5,200, both forward spots on FanDuel. On DraftKings, he's 4,500. Shooting guard, small forward, 10% valuable over there, 10% valuable, 10% win rate over there, 9% win rate on FanDuel. So far this season, just 0.78 FanDuel points per minute, same rate on DraftKings. Played 7 games, averaging just 20 minutes. Played 30 last time in the messy Miami rotation. 32.9 FanDuel points. I think we could see somewhere around there with a little bit more ceiling on it. Odds are it doesn't quite get to, this is what, a standard deviation or so, standard deviation and a half above his mean score. That's an acceptable ceiling. I think there's a little bit more there for him. I don't know, 40's probably pushing it, but on the right night. Who else looks relevant? OG Anunoby, a little bit relevant. 15% winner on FanDuel, 12.7% on DraftKings. Right? Yeah, 6,000. Not a ton to say about OG Anunoby. And these are the kind of games I feel like I get from him more often than not. A .86 FanDuel point per minute player, though, at 6,100. It's a little bit of value there. 4.75 points per dollar. 4.76 on the DraftKings slate. Just another one of these guys that fits in. He's slightly above in terms of price, so a lot of these guys up here. But he fits in. He's getting into some of these lineups. So it does seem like there's a pretty big rotation of guys through these spots, particularly on DraftKings. Darius Garland at 72 on DraftKings, point guard only, 77 point guard only on FanDuel. 41 minutes the other day, put up 33 FanDuel points. That's not going to do it. 0.97 FanDuel points per minute on the season. 1.02 DraftKings points per minute. Like I said, there are 4 guys on that Cleveland team that project very well basically any given slate with Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, and Jared Allen. It's difficult to keep any of them below 30 points. Garland, 0.97 per minute on the season. I've got them picking up a bunch of possessions in this game. It's like 120 point implied total for them, 120 and 3/4. So I've got him at, that's a like 1.08 per minute projection. There's plenty to support that. We've seen him around those levels. What's he been since the start of last season? Start of last season, 1.03 FanDuel points per minute, 1.07 DraftKings points. We could shave maybe a point off him. If I take it down to... Yeah, if you had it at exactly a point less, that would have him like dead on his rate since the start of last year. And I think there's reason to believe that he can outperform that because of the possessions that they'll pick up in this game. So I like where Garland's at. I think it's reasonable. Seeing pretty good returns on him. 21% of winners on FanDuel, 16% of winners on DraftKings. For his ceiling, too, that's a pretty good price. 77 on the FanDuel slate, 72 on DraftKings is an aggressively good price, honestly. I'm actually surprised he's not coming up a little bit more. It just speaks to probably just the nature, again, of the position where we're just getting a lot of these mid-range value types in there. But I'm kind of surprised that for 72 versus 81 for Freddie VanVleet, that we're not seeing a little bit more. Wait, shit, that's Kyle Lowry. Oh, no, that's Darius Garland. My eyes jumped. I was like, Kyle Lowry, no way. Darius Garland at 72, I'm kind of surprised with a $900 gap there. A better points per dollar value. And Freddie VanVleet also being a lot more owned. It's an interesting man-for-man pivot. Don't mind that in large field tournaments by any means. VanVleet pulling the better win rate by a good amount. But with plenty of meat on the bone in terms of win rate there, saving you a decent amount of money, it would be an alternate path, and it's holding up fairly well. Manuel quickly, tournament dart throw from time to time, sure, but typically only when he's stepping into the starting rotation or picking up a reasonable expectation of additional minutes, additional usage. He's fine. 1.01 FanDuel points per minute, playing 25 minutes a game on this season, played 28 the last time out, put up 27.9 FanDuel points. There's just not a lot of ceiling when he's not getting 28 minutes and beyond, when he's not asked to do a whole hell of a lot other than just, a little bit of scoring off the bench. He's got good numbers on the season. He's having a good six-man year again. Averaging 15-9, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. Taking 5 threes, shooting 37.5% from 3, 58.5% true shooting percentage. It's all fine, but it's not really all that crazy worth going to, and the ceiling is kind of limited for a decent-sized slate, 8 games. Brandon Miller on the other side of that Knicks game. 8.5% of winners on FanDuel, 7.05% on DraftKings at 5,600. Another cog in the wheel at these positions. A lot of same type guys through the middle. Everybody picking up a little piece of value here, a couple winners here. I expect we're going to see some concentration of win rate at some of these other spots. Either that or it's just going to be a really spread out slate as we get into this. Anybody we missed? Anybody worth bringing up? Oh, Dimitri was taught English in 7th grade by Emmanuel Quickly's mom. Was she a good teacher? Was she nice? In 7th grade, it's really more like, were they nice? Well, 7th grade, maybe not. It was pretty foundational English in 7th grade. Let's see. Can we judge by Dimitri's writing? All right. Seems okay. A lot of like internet speak and abbreviations in here as we scroll up, but that's all right. It's acceptable. This is a YouTube chat. We'll have to keep an eye on Dimitri's use of grammar and see how good an English teacher Ms. Quickly is. Very nice lady. Awesome. He seems like a good dude. I mean, all the interviews with Quickly, I actually like him. And I think he's a very good, effective scorer off the bench. He's perfect for his role. I just don't know that, some Knicks fans, at least over the last couple of years, is, why didn't Quickly play more? Leave him in this role. You do need guys like that. And I think he's perfect for that. But just seems like a good kid. Every time he's on the microphone, just, really, really says the right things and, seems like a team guy and a good kid. So always rooted for him. Mamba says, Sims have made hand building obsolete. I don't know about that. Pretty sure XX Cubs fan built that NFL lineup over the weekend by hand. Depends on what you're entering, right? If you're entering, and obviously, these things are informed by Sims, and wherever you're looking, the content's going to be informed by Sims, right? So if you're just hand building, outside of just I know this guy's a good football player. If you're hand building like that, just, you're sitting on the toilet, it's 11:30 on Sunday morning and you haven't looked at anything, you're just picking players, then yeah, you're probably not going to hold up with Sims. If you're going by like, I read this article, I read that article, I looked at numbers from Terry, I looked at numbers from Stochastic, I looked at numbers from ETR, and now I'm going to hand build in based on the information that I've gotten from content and shows all week long. That's all going to be informed by these Sims anyway. And all of those Sims are just kind of reflective of the things that we've always talked about anyway. Right? So yes and no in that hand building thing. I think there's more impact from the Sims on the 150 maxers, on both the 150 maxers actually, and as a reflection of that, the people who enter 20 or 50 in the full tournament against the 150 maxers. It's probably the biggest impact on those people because they've just got fewer bites at the apple of all the good plays while still trying to do the same thing that the 150 maxers are. So I think it's probably the biggest impact to them. Hey, there's Dan. It was hand-built. One last time, congratulations to our pal Dennis Forgy. I don't know if he was here yesterday at all for his kudos, but we shouted him out yesterday. But a monster $200,000 winner on the NFL slate the other day. Had a lot of our plays that we talked about through the shows. A lot of our highly projected guys in there. But built himself a hell of a lineup. And congratulations, buddy. Well deserved. If I'm not mistaken, the second six-figure win of the football season, or at least of the fall. So, for Dennis. So, pretty great, dude. That was a awesome day of football. It was fun chasing you all day, and I'm glad that one held up when freaking Gabe Davis decided not to catch that ball. Would have been a much bigger day for us both had that happened, I think. Beantown says, Terry is my sim. Dimitri, doing 150 ain't all that easy either, though. It takes work. I don't knock out either side. No, trust me, 150 isn't easy. And the thing that I like about hand building, right, is the slate starts and I know exactly who's in my lineup. 150, I know what the shape of it is. I know what my portfolio looks like, but I don't know exactly who's in which lineup with who. Kevin O's hand building right now. Love it. Over the years, I've actually been pretty decent at hand building. I had a very successful hand built lineup. As I said, going into on the football show on Saturday, the lineup that you'll see in any single entry for football and any of the high dollar ones, basically I 150 max the main big tournament, the millie, quote unquote millie, on FanDuel, and then I throw the hand built lineup that's my placeholder into all those tournaments. So that one did really well over the weekend. I've always enjoyed hand building and kind of miss it, if I'm being honest. I wish there were better contests for just one entry. There are good contests for it, but I wish there was kind of maybe more of a focus on that. I don't know what I'm trying to express. But either way, regardless, congratulations again to Dennis. Everybody's chiming in the chat. Travis says had to double my 100K win. It's okay. I like competition. Yeah, could be Travis had another six-figure winner from the Roto Scouts family here. So congratulations again to him. Up on the crane. If I'm not mistaken, won 100K and then went and climbed the crane the next day. Hardworking man. Beantown lives his fantasy life a quarter mile at the pay line every night. Live my life a quarter mile at a time. Maybe like the last Fast and Furious movie. I thought it was fun, but it seems like they're really leaning into the silliness now. Like they know how much people enjoy the silliness. Pretty sure that started when they sent everybody to space last time. But yeah, that one was not great. But Jason Momoa was fantastic in it. He saved the entire movie, in my opinion. Scotty Barnes, kind of interesting down here, lingering 10% on FanDuel. These three guys right here. Plus, actually, four guys. Terry Rozier in that group as well. A little bit more interesting, like I was getting at before. 4% winners across the board for all four of those guys on DK. 10% winners, 8% for Terry Rozier. But Scotty Barnes, Kyrie Irving, Donovan Mitchell, Terry Rozier. It's a good group of players to find just kind of hiding down here on the FanDuel board. 1.29, 1.23, 1.27 FanDuel points per minute for the top three. Terry Rozier checking in at 0.99. He's only played 6 games, though. Let him find his footing. Good player overall. Timmy Hardaway, a lot less so. Never love having Timmy. Had a lineup the other night that was like, oh, that one's got 3 quarters left in it. We got a chaser. Yeah, it's Tim Hardaway shit. We're not getting there. Timmy ain't putting up 30 in the second half. Max Strus in that Cleveland rotation, 6,000. Shooting guard, small forward, 6% winner on DK, about the same on FanDuel, or vice versa, about the same on DK for 6,600. Just an also-ran kind of a guy. Dennis Schroeder, 6,300, point guard only, 7% winner on FanDuel, 63 on DK, about the same, 7% winner. Dinwiddie in that Brooklyn game, it's a reasonable option. 8% on DraftKings for 72, both guard spots, 13% on FanDuel. Picks up a little value at the $7,100 price tag on FanDuel. Not a bad option. I'd probably put him in not the same bucket as Barnes, Kyrie, Donovan Mitchell down below, even though he comes up a little bit more. Is a different kind of a play just based on where he's priced. $1,700 less than, or $1,600 less than the cheapest of those 3 guys. Similar, no, I shouldn't say similar ceiling, but the ability to produce big games from time to time and a reasonable per minute performer over time. Let's put him that way. So not a bad option in Spencer Dinwiddie. I think that's most of the important cards. Bogdan has some relevance up here. Didn't spot him earlier. Another one of those guys just in that 5,700 shooting guard small forward range. 15% on FanDuel for 58, 12% on DraftKings. Let's take a look at where everything else is coming up. Kind of curious. Yeah, a little bit more concentration on some of these guys. 6,000s, 7,000s. A little bit more spend at the forward spots. 87 for Julius Randle. Blech. Blech. Anybody want Julius Randle? I'll take, I don't know. 2 good, not great players. 1 great player on a terrible contract. I don't want any more draft picks. I got enough draft picks. I'll send you draft picks. Where do we want to start here? Gordon Hayward, 41% of winning lineups on the FanDuel slate, 38% on the DraftKings slate. Yeesh. It's been a .93 DraftKings points per minute player, .94 on FanDuel. Played 32 minutes the other night, put up 19. You do get the downside games from Hayward, but 5.2 FanDuel points per dollar, 4.57 DraftKings points per dollar. Definitely looks better to the naked eye on the FanDuel slate, but the win rates are not all that far off. A decent cog in the machine, I guess, 6,500. Not sure which of those positions he's landing at, given I thought a lot of those other guys were going to be landing at small forward. Maybe it pushes Gordon Hayward over to power forward, or we're just getting him in, forward only. Alexander Walker, we talked about. Evan Mobley, as I said, I have no issues with going to any of these Cleveland guys, getting 2 of those Cleveland guys. I don't want to get completely overwhelmed with them, and they do all project well, and they are all landing in lineups. 34% of winners for Evan Mobley on FanDuel, though, 27% on DraftKings. Looks very solid on both sides, putting up 1.16 FanDuel points, 1.14 DraftKings points per minute. Very good price for Evan Mobley across sites. 78 with multi-position eligibility on FanDuel, 76 on DraftKings. That's a good player at those prices. 33 in 38 minutes the other night. That's not going to get it done. But definitely has more in the tank than that. We've got him at a mean projection that's ahead of that. His average is ahead of that. Dunk, 21% of winners on FanDuel, 19% of winners on DraftKings. If he goes, he's going to be relevant, and he could see minutes beyond this. He's averaging 33.2, so we're right around his season average on the year. Last time out, played 38.1. Sorry. Last time out, Dunk didn't play. Game before that, his last time, let's see, what do we have? 2 games back in, 24, 30, 35, the last 3. Last 10 is averaging 33.4. So, Yeah, I read the wrong one. 29-4. Maybe we knock that down a little bit, but it depends on what's going on in that rotation. I could see Dunk pulling back by 2 minutes? A minute? Let's see. Now I'm going to start digging in on this. I don't want to do this. Don't want to do this until there's information. Let's see. I got him right. Yeah, like I said before, I got him right at the rate. I think I've got it set up the way it should be. We'll keep an eye on it. Maybe you see him drop down a little bit. Just follow the projections, follow the numbers, how they come up. That'll be one to keep an eye on as lock approaches, though, and he might not play. Cam Johnson looking pretty decent. 25% of winners on FanDuel, 19% on DraftKings. Power forward only on DraftKings. 6,400 on FanDuel over 61 across sites. Little bit more valuable to the FanDuel slate. Plenty upside in the Brooklyn rotation. Still pieces missing there. Obviously no Simmons, no Cam Thomas, whoever the hell else is out. So that's just a messy, sloppy, ugly team with guys who do stand out for some value. I'm sure Bridges is on here somewhere as well. There he is. 11% on FanDuel, 6% on DraftKings. Decent, okay, not great option, I guess, across sites for Mikal Bridges. But a very good player overall. 1.06 FanDuel points, 1.09 DraftKings points per minute. Another guy who plays a monster amount of minutes, averaging 34.6. Got him at 36 on the day. Very solid option. Put up a clunker the last time out. We'll forgive him that one. We talked about Scotty. The other Bridges, Miles, 6.51% of winners on FanDuel, half that on DraftKings. Same price across sites, multi-position on DraftKings, but it doesn't really matter. He's doubling up the win rate on the FanDuel slate at small forward only. Only moderately relevant, though. And again, that game is just not great. But with no LaMelo, there's plenty for him to do. 36 minutes, he's back to playing, full starters minutes, 36.9 on the average in these 5 games. 37-1 the last time out, put up 41 FanDuel points. For 8,000, that's just right about what you need, though. Excuse me, that's just right about a little above his mean projection. So it's short of what you need in terms of a ceiling. It's what you would expect on the average. Dennis says, I only donate on DK and win on FanDuel. Is Ish Smith valuable? Seems like Maladon has lost his role. I did project it that way. I don't remember where Ish landed on the board. I don't remember seeing him. Nope. 0.63 per minute. I did give him 18 minutes. But that gives him a 12-point projection on FanDuel. For 3,700 on DraftKings, he's not even getting there on price-based value. But I did cut it to Teo has 6 minutes. So Ish does have the lion's share of minutes between the two of those guys, but just not really coming up as an option. What else we got here? Mobley we talked about. Cam Johnson we talked about. Wiggins, Klay Thompson. We touched on them in the guard spots, but again, they're both coming up, and that is a healthy game environment. So I'll have my fair shares. I've just been disappointed by those guys so many times already just this year, let alone over time. There is upside in both players, and they're coming through just at where they're at. So you get a good ceiling game, and you're off and running. Draymond's showing a little bit less value. 13% of winners on DK, 12% on FanDuel. Power forward and center on both sides, 6,000, 6,200. He is hitting the board as a value option. Probably, I'm going to guess, most of those falling into power forward on both sides. Can't imagine he's coming up much at center on the FanDuel slate. Pascal Siakam, pretty nice piece of value there. 7,900 on FanDuel. 22% of winners. Less so on DraftKings. 82 power forward and center over there. Does pick up multi-position. Coming up less in winners, but still relevant. Just under 5 points per dollar. Just over 5 points per dollar on the FanDuel slate, but power forward only. But that price has him pretty relevant. 22% of winners, 21% of top ones. I like that. Sadiq Bey got an uptick of minutes in the last game with, what's his face getting hurt? Jalen Johnson, right? I think so. So he played 28-9 in that game. Put up 18 FanDuel points. Actually, that's right on his average at this point. He started the second half. I guess that's what I was thinking of. The average is, the minutes are right on average. And that's projecting him for 4 additional minutes. It's given him some value. 15% of winners on FanDuel. 14% of winners on DraftKings. RJ a touchdown. Very good price for RJ at 5,900 on DraftKings. If you get this game out of him, you're in a lot of trouble. But there's a lot of ceiling there on the right night. Jaime Quez. This is another one in Miami that I want to keep an eye on. I've got him at 26 minutes. I think they've got him for more minutes in other places. He was projected as one of the more highly owned players on the DraftKings slate. Right now, if he's coming up at 6%, that doesn't support that ownership projection that I saw. So I'm curious about that one. I'm actually... Let me see where they got him on this one. Let's see what our neighbors are doing. They're currently... Yeah, they're way higher on him. Where are we different? They're just, I think they're just projecting him as like a straight-up starter. Like I said, I had him at 26. I was given Highsmith 26. You got him around the same. Kevin Love, Jamal Cain. All right, grab a couple minutes there, I guess. And then I could just take minutes away from Jamal Cain because I didn't want to really give them to him anyway. Like I said, Cain was the first guy off the bench the other day. He's just weird because he's 3,000 on the DraftKings slate. He's a shooting guard on DraftKings. I didn't see him when we were just looking at those sims, and if I take minutes away from him, it's going to make him even less relevant. But if he plays minutes at the dead minimum, there's always a little bit of danger there. I just don't love directly dropping Quez into, let's see. I looked at this up and down, but I don't have it coming into memory. I just want to look at that just because of how he's projected across over at RG for just a massive ownership share on DraftKings. And again, it's straight up because of how he's coming through in their numbers because they've got him at 30 and change starters minutes. Is it Caleb Martin that we've got different? That might be it. That's probably it. It's probably a little bit on Caleb Martin and a little bit on Kevin Love that I could pull out and give to Highsmith and just call him a straight-up starter. I think I'm going to wait, though. I think I want to see exactly what they, if we get news on what they're going to look like. It's a 7:30 game, so it's at lock. So hopefully we get it sometime around 6 or so. It's messy already, and if either Bam or Dunk doesn't play, it's even messier. It's interesting, though, because Where are we projection-wise? I do know that you guys can't see most of what I'm clicking on. You're just staring at a screen that hasn't moved in the last couple of minutes. Apologies. The interesting thing is... Oh, no. All right. That's a bigger difference than I thought. 0.93. Yeah, that'll be a critical difference. I don't want to spend any more time on it. For those who weren't here 15, 20 minutes ago when I started that rabbit hole hunt for Jaime Jaquez minutes, just looking into it because at 26, he doesn't come up all that valuable, but he is, again, projected very highly for ownership with about a handful more minutes in a different place. That does make him, I'm sure, a lot more valuable than this. One to keep an eye on for sure. You'll see it in the projections, though. 7:30 start, like I said. Let's see if anybody's chiming in on that. Think your neighbors are watching. Hit the like. Beantown, right now, I'm not giving Book Night any. I gave him 6 minutes. I have no idea what they are going to do with him. I don't think there's any... kind of anything, any reason to expect that he's going to get minutes. Like I said when I started the show, I actually thought I remembered seeing a story from the beginning of the year that he wasn't with the team anymore. But I guess it was just that he was injured. But yeah, I don't really know. I think they've kind of had their share of Book Night. Trey Labs gave who 32? Jaquez? Who's the big dog? Who's the joker of the slate? Huh. See what you did there, Mamba. Hey, Kaz. Yeah. All right. I mean, that's, it's another vote in his favor. I was kind of just holding it with Caleb Martin getting 31. I was giving him the start. And Jaquez and Highsmith both picking up in the mid-20s. But there's a spread there. I was also giving a couple additional minutes to Kevin Love. So we can get in and carve that up a little bit. Jaquez will pick up value if that changes. He would vault into easily the mid-teens there. Pretty competitive at 5,400 at the small forward and power forward spots on the DraftKings slate. Appreciate that, Trey. Yeah, Gordon Hayward coming up quite a bit right now. Why? I assume price and positioning? I don't know. Got him at, 29 FanDuel points in 34 minutes? That's below his season rate because they're losing a couple possessions by virtue of playing the Knicks. 104.5 point implied total in Vegas the last time I put it up. Under 100 possessions projected for the game. So I've got him, a fair amount below his season-long rate currently. He's averaging 0.94. Averaging 0.94. The projections got him at 0.87. 5,700 just plays well, I guess. 6,500 just plays well, I guess, at these forward positions. I'm surprised by it, too. The points per dollar is very good on FanDuel. It's less good on the DraftKings slate. I don't have a great explanation. Other than positioning. What does the power forward only spot look like? So for 76... you're getting Mobley. You get Cam Johnson here, 61. Kind of surprised. That's not coming up a little bit more than that. Wiggins, Randall, Draymond. I can get why these guys aren't. The surprising one, I think, is Cam Johnson, maybe. Not outpacing him at 61 versus 65. Some of that might be falling into small forward versus power forward only. I don't know that he picks up like double the win rate from just that, though. Maybe, because you get him, in a full additional spot, so you figure those lineups all just, fall together that way. But that would also probably be significantly replaced by Jaime Jaquez at a better price. Like if I gave Jaquez a call it 29.5, that takes him to a 5.46 points per dollar. It makes him the best eligible power forward points per dollar wise on the DraftKings slate. That's why he's so popular on DraftKings. These numbers would increase significantly. So these would be in like the 20s, and I suspect a lot of it would come out of Gordon Hayward. I'll tell you what. I wonder if I can I do this? Hold on. I think that's the only thing that's changed, right? Or that I don't think we've had any major changes. And I think I've still got this file. Yes, I do. So if I go call that there, and his ownership is already ownership is in column J. I'm gonna rerun that sim. I'm gonna change Jaime Jaquez and rerun that sim. We're spending a lot of time on Jaime Jaquez, but I think it's worth doing. And I should drop Caleb by a couple of points, take him down to 22.5. Leave that alone. And he's fine there. And Highsmith will take to 15. Right. Take that, do this. Again, I know you guys can't see this either. But let's switch. I'm going to do an on-the-fly rough estimate version of assuming that I have those minutes incorrect. What will this look like for Haywood Highsmith? So just kick that off. Let me just make sure it runs. I had one guy in the thing before that had an error, like a little number sign and error message in Excel, and didn't like my upload. Like I said, every time Ace Mind refuses to give me a result, it's because I screwed something up in the upload. It's uncanny. Anyone else getting a bad gateway error on Fantasy Cruncher? You might have been IP banned, Rob. I don't know. That happens to some people sometimes. I say that because I can't actually get to Fantasy Cruncher myself, so I don't know. Trey, hold on FanDuel, you'll pick up some Jaquez at 6,000. It'll be less impactful. Excuse me. It'll be less impactful on FanDuel to that Hayward play, but it'll be there. He's 300 more though than Hayward on FanDuel versus being on DraftKings significantly less, 54 versus 65, 1,100 less. So it's going to have a much, much bigger impact. That's why I'm rerunning it on DraftKings, not FanDuel. It's just more relevant over there. Mamba is also getting the gateway error, so it sounds like it's universal. 502 bad gateway. Well, I certainly hope they didn't go out of business forever. Yes, I do. Under new management would be cool. Just a big banner like at a gas station. Gas station that's given people bad service and like cursed them out when they've come and asked for gasoline, something like that. For years you just don't go there anymore. That kind of a place. Then you see like under new management, and then maybe you consider like, hey, maybe I'll go give those a try again. Mama's got Minority Report playing in the background. I literally picked up my remote like, oh, I wonder what channel is that on? Like I could flip it on right now. Love Minority Report. Good movie. Love Spielberg. Big fan. Rob, what's the alternative? There's a lot of optimizers out there. I use the RG optimizer, Roto Grinders. It's essentially 85% of the functionality of FanDuel and all of the important shit. Ace Mind has their own optimizer on that site, and I might just switch all my action over to there once it's completely built out with a few more bells and whistles that I want to get the guys to put in there. But theirs is very good. Really what I care about is something that'll give me a lot of lineups fast. And the way I've been doing that on lately, for a lot of cases, is just using AceMind for that purpose. So I'll just run sims just to get it to build me 25,000 lineups in a minute. And then I'll evaluate those lineups, and then I'll run them back against another sim, and so on and so forth. And you whittle a player pool down from that. So there's a lot of different ways to go about it. Mamba picked up what I was putting down there. Not that the sarcasm wasn't laid on thick. Jason Tatum, middle of the board, 46.9 projection for 10-6 on FanDuel, 48-point projection for 10-3 on DraftKings. Just coming up in 1% of winners over on DK, 2% of winners on FanDuel. Luxury item, though. As we always talk about, these 9s and 10s and Giannis's at 11-7 further down the board. Giannis literally didn't make it into any FanDuel winners in that sim. He's a luxury, high-priced, big-ticket item. This is justification for a Giannis fade if you wanted to look at it that way. I don't look at it that way. Giannis is a luxury guy. That's what those values are for. The guys with monster ceilings make and break slates. Like we saw yesterday, though, with Joel Embiid, at a more crucial position on FanDuel where you only get one bite at the apple, not playing the fourth quarter, putting up only 60 and change at these inflated prices does have a negative impact on lineups. So you do need that ceiling 80-point game out of Giannis. It's just there's so few guys who can get you that 80-point game that when these guys do, there's no competing with that spot. It's just clear by 15 points of anybody else. So that's just all about the individual values, or the individual pay-ups. Let me see here. I'm just going to replace this entire thing. I'm just going to replace the DK data that we've been talking about. We'll see how it changes things. So get a good look at DraftKings now. That's what it looks like. Here, wait. I'll take a screenshot. Okay. And yeah, there goes Gordon Hayward. What'd I tell you? That's a biggie. RJ picked up a ton of value. Holy hell. That rerun was friendly to RJ Barrett. And Jaime Jaquez, there's why he's so popular, right? So what I did in that rerun, ignore where he's at in terms of the projection. I did this. I put him at 29.5, which is essentially giving him that 32-minute projection. Probably a little bit generous. And he's a monster. This is probably the way to approach Jaime Jaquez. I'll change it in the projections. I'll take another look at it, and then I'll change it. But it seems like that is the way that the industry's leaning. I don't necessarily do it because the industry's leaning that way, because you do want to, if there's a reason, if there's something like that, and there's good cause to be on the other side of it, then maybe we would. But I'll think it through. We'll probably end up here, but it does look like we're a much more crucial piece around Jaime Jaquez on DraftKings, and just nothing at all now for Gordon Hayward. Fine, I'll rerun this FanDuel one too. Taking our sweet time, but we've got a 7:30 start, so who cares? Let's take 1 second. I'm going to rerun FanDuel. Oh, because his name's not Jazzquez. It's Highquez. That's why he wasn't coming up. Alright, so if I make this, just take that to... do the same thing. And he's fine. Caleb Martin. I'm going to do all this, and Caleb Martin's going to end up getting the start. Alright, let's do that. I just want to see now how it impacts that FanDuel slate, just because of what a big dip Gordon Hayward took. It is very different, as I was saying before, from site to site in terms of how they're priced relative to one another. So I expect a much less of an impact, but it does seem worth looking at. So just click that, and we'll rerun this. And off we go. All right. That, by the way, is how quick Ace Mine works. And that was, me talking for a few minutes before I click back over to that tab. But so right now it's generating 33,000 lineups for the FanDuel slate, and it's done. So it's generated the lineups. Now it's starting to run the simulations, and it just knocked out 5,000 simulations. So this is how quickly it works. It'll be done in about a minute and a half. 10,000 are done out of 50,000. So that generates 33,068 lineups, 33068, and then it simulates them 50,000 times for the contest. So you get a whole hell of a lot of data in. We're at 20,000 out of 50,000 now, and we've been running for 46 seconds. So in a minute and a half. Pretty damn good tool these guys built. acemine.io. Check them out. What popped up? NBA Pick'em, make your picks ahead of nobody cares. And that was not a news thing. So let's talk about some of these other things while we're waiting for that to change. Let's look at the rest of the DraftKings changes. Evan Mobley held his value. Cam Johnson held his value. Well, these guys dipped a little bit. A lot of concentration around RJ and Jaquez there. Then we picked up some Grant Williams at 4,000. Hit that board pretty hard. I don't think he was on the board earlier. Where was Grant Williams? Yeah, it's a big leap for Grant Williams, too. Man, that is completely slate changing on DraftKings. We got to look back at guard now. Looking back to the guard position, look how much things change here, too. You get Darius Garland now floating to the top on DraftKings, pulling a 34% win rate with more money. It looks like that converts things where there's more money to spend at the guard spot. Freddie VanVleet holding a good amount of his value, but I bet we'll see a good number of lineups that have Fred VanVleet, Darius Garland guard combos when we look at lineups in that sim. Manuel quickly started to pick up some value there. A lot of the 57s, 56 type guys. A lot of this is still the same. Right, a lot of sames types through here in the 5s. A couple of the 4s dipped. Caleb Martin, Josh Richardson didn't. And that was with, I did cut Caleb Martin by a couple of points going into that one. Nickeil Alexander-Walker took a big dip. As I was saying, I thought a lot of those were going to be at small forward, and I think that holds up. He probably lost a lot of his shares to that Jaime Jaquez play. FanDuel Sim's done, by the way. Let's grab it. And we'll put that in. So the most important question is, Hayward stays the same. Hayward didn't really change on the FanDuel sim. And where's the Kez? Yeah, so that's he climbed Jaime Jaquez when I changed him to 29 on FanDuel, but at that 6,000 small forward only, that's a much less of an impact. He went from, what was he, like 8% when we were looking at it a minute ago, up to 16. But Gordon Hayward held his value. So a lot less impact to Gordon Hayward from site to site. Stays at 40% basically. Interesting. It's amazing, though, when you see how big an impact. That's a 6-minute swing, right? I had him projected for 6 minutes more or less than they did. I change it to essentially where they had him projected and where Fantasy Labs apparently has him projected in terms of minutes, and it changes the entire shape of the slate on DraftKings. It's really amazing how one guy can swing things that much. Shows how the positional value when we talk about those guys that are the travel size toothbrush that you pack into the suitcase that you can only fit so many items in, that then allow you to bring your shoes and your flippers and your your extra pair of shorts and so on. Creates immense value just having a play like that. But that was a really stark example of it. I'm glad we did that. Worth the exercise. Let's take a look, make sure we're not missing anything else at the forward spot. So a lot of flat value on FanDuel at the forward spots now. Like these guys, that's a lot of individual win rates. 317% of win rates across those 15 guys. Good names in there too. Alexander Walker holding FanDuel value. Lost most of it on DraftKings. That's also a factor of that Jaime Jaquez difference. Jaquez being 6,000 on FanDuel is hurtful to his value. Again, that was changing his projection at 29.5. Oh, let me fix this. So, for all purposes, as you're looking at this, remember Jaime Jaquez is at 29.5 points in these sim results, not the 24. I don't want to change it because then I'll forget to change it back, and the model will be broken, and we'll be staring at LeBron James 24.2 points, and I'll be like, why the hell is LeBron James projected for 24 points? Anyway, Cat, decent value there. Like I said, probably going to come up with a fair amount of them across both power forward and center on the FanDuel slate. On DraftKings, single digits, but playable. 17% win rate for Bogdan. We touched on him in the guard spot. Another cross-position guy who does have value on DK. Sounds like FC's back up. Chuck Deuce is chiming in. What's up, Chuck? So yeah, that Jaquez play is kind of critical across sites. Caleb Martin did have value. This was, again, cutting his... I cut him to 21 or 22. I forget which. So he held a little bit of value across sites. RJ at 5,900. I like that price. Did take a jump in that second sim. Mobley held his value. Klay Thompson's got some. Cam Johnson, a little bit at the power forward spot. Julius, nobody's favorite player. Just under 10% of winners on the DraftKings slate. This is Julius Randle all day. Right? That's the epitome of Julius Randle. He gets you almost there, but not quite there, more often than not. Top 1%, he's at 12.5. Winners, 9.5. On FanDuel, he's a lot more relevant. 8,200, power forward only. 23% of winners on the FanDuel slate. That's showing a little bit more value. For 500 less against that FanDuel cap, there's no real arguing with it. He is a 1.10 FanDuel point per minute player on the season. That's a good price for that kind of a rate, giving us a 4.91 point per dollar projection. It's fine. I'm not in love with Julius Randle. Looking forward to the day on which he is traded. Ryan Radcliffe, having a tough time with a 2v on FanDuel. Şengün and Randall or Sabonis and Allen. Well, I'll tell you what, my friend. Come to the right place. And that will be a good transition. Şengün. Who are our choices here? Şengün, Randall, Sabonis, Allen. Oops. And Allen. I assume you mean Jared. So that was Şengün and Randall, or Sabonis and Allen. We're going to lean Sabonis and Allen based on these win rates. It's not a bad comp, though. You just get Şengün at the bottom of it with 19%. So our sum there is, 57.9 versus 43.3, if we're just summing up the win rates in a really clunky way to do that. But yeah, a little bit of preference for the, these two guys. Your higher end guy is more comparable to the lower end guy in the cross players comparison, and then Sabonis kind of out on his own. I like all four players though. No issues with any of them. Like, in no way am I saying don't play any of these guys. All four of those guys totally viable. 5 or approaching 5 points per dollar. Good positioning. Plenty of win rates up for all four of those guys. An average win rate across those guys of 25%. That was a good 4 guys to choose for that question, Ryan. Nicely done. Ryan Radcliffe, everybody. Now, Ryan's also got a nice dog there. Mama says Terry found it there with RJ. Correct value from the New York Knicks. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. That shouldn't make anybody comfortable. If we're thinking that the slate swings on finding the correct guy from the Knicks. Ugh. There are many better fates than that. Let's jump to center. Going an hour and a half. Flies by. Really does. We had a few good things to look at there. Demanded our little bit more time. Come on. Hey, there we go. No surprise, Mobley back up at the top. Then Şengün, Sabonis, who we just talked about. So both of those guys on DraftKings. You do get a little bit more Şengün for what that's worth than Sabonis. Both of those guys center only over there. 8,500 for Şengün versus 10-1 for Domantas Sabonis. Big difference in salary. Reasonably comparable in win rates. 15.5 for Şengün, 13.8. But that's a big difference versus where they are on FanDuel, when Sabonis is 35 and Şengün is at a still very good, but 19.4%. Part of that is probably getting Sabonis shares at power forward. More value for Mitch, that's kind of surprising. On the DraftKings slate, 5,200 versus 59, I guess is probably why. 5.4 points per dollar versus 5.2. Just typically, what Mitch does on the court, a little bit more valuable on FanDuel scoring system. 0.87 points per minute on DraftKings, 0.93 on FanDuel. But coming through Sims a little bit better on DK. Jared Allen, part of that group of very good options that we talked about. Vooch, single digits on both sites, but kind of relevant. Nothing crazy, but pushing about 10% on both sites in winners. He's going to have those Vooch nights. 15 times a year, he's going to have a very good night. And then he's going to have 30 games that are pretty good to decent, this kind of territory. 31 fantasy points in 26, 28 minutes. But those big Vooch nights can be kind of critical. I highlighted the wrong guy again. 28 and 36. Same thing. I was trying to illustrate a mediocre kind of a night. This is a better example of a mediocre night. If you get 36 minutes out of Vooch, I would expect more fantasy points than this. More often than not. It's a 1.02 rate. So, didn't hold up that night. If you get this kind of a game out of him, or if you get this kind of minutes out of him, that's kind of what we're looking for. So, plenty of upside, plenty of support for a 37-point projection. Capella, never a guy I love getting to, but shows value. 5,700, 9% of winners on DraftKings, 5.12 points per dollar, 1.16 points per minute. FanDuel, 6,000. Maybe it's just the single center of it on FanDuel that I have issues with getting to Capella. It never seems to really get there for me, but is a 1.23 FanDuel points per minute player. The production should be there. I just feel like I get this game out of Clint Capella a lot. 25-minute projection for 6,000. Maybe it's the minutes, maybe it's the single positioning. I would just rather have some of these other guys who have more security of minutes. Give me Mitch for 100 less. Doing the same things that Clint Capella does. 5 more minutes projected. I actually don't really know why he would be lower Sims. That's probably happenstance across the this set of 50,000. Pascal Siakam showing a lot of value on FanDuel. A little bit for Cat, a little bit for Draymond. Some for Bam, assuming that Bam plays. 10% on FanDuel, a lot better than the 3% on DraftKings. 9,200 versus 94. Center only on both sides. See? I told you Giannis wasn't without value. In that rerun, he came up in 0.03% of our 50,000 Sims. he landed in the winners. I told you he could get there. For all those Giannis Antetokounmpo doubters out there. Stumbled over his name. 2.22% on DraftKings at 11.4. A little bit more friendly over there. Better price. Power forward and center eligible on the DraftKings slate. Trey Lyles hanging on to 14% of value on DraftKings. Doesn't really have it on or vice versa. Doesn't really have it on DraftKings at center only. 4,400 not really landing in lineups. 1.5% of winners. But 14% of winners at power forward on the FanDuel slate. Gives them a little bit to cling to there. Just 2 games on the season, averaging 23 minutes, played 19 the other night, put up 16 FanDuel points. Kind of projected just over that. And he's showing enough. I don't know how much of a ceiling there really is there, but doesn't need that much ceiling at value pricing. FanDuel-wise, and that's a FanDuel only, again. FanDuel-wise, there's, nobody within 2,000 of them, really, on the high side. And then on the low side, nobody within like 1,300 of them showing any kind of similar value. So it's just a price. He's the only guy. He's on an island at that price, at that position. It's the same on DraftKings. Well, no, 44 because he's center only. That's right. So on DraftKings we get... Why does it always take longer to sort the DraftKings column? The FanDuel one went whip right up. DraftKings, like, my computer starts whirring like an airplane, and it doesn't want to do anything. So DK, you get him compared to $5,200 Mitch, $5,700 Clint, $4,000 Kevin Love. Kongwu for 48, even 33 for Andre Drummond, who's not projected for many minutes, 14 minutes. Even he's outdrawing him, so not a lot for Trey Lyles on the DraftKings slate. Precious Achiuwa, same kind of a thing on DraftKings, also showing no value, though, on FanDuel at 17 minutes, 4,700. Brolo, I was disappointed to see him drop below 30 points in my projections when I put it together this morning. 1.11 FanDuel points per minute on the season, 1.03 DraftKings points. Played 31 the other night, put up 42. Any given slate, there's good value for Brolo, but not the best spot in the world for him. Kind of a little bit below the season average. Nick Claxton, not really showing much. 3% of winners on DraftKings, 0.25 on FanDuel, 0.27. Anybody important that we didn't at least briefly touch on? Pascal Siakam is a good option. Went up against that Brooklyn team. 22% of winners. 1.07 FanDuel points. 10% of winners on DraftKings is a big difference. 7,900 at power forward only versus 82 at power forward center. It's a positional thing, price thing. Naz Reid, a little bit more valuable in his 20 minutes on DraftKings. 8% of winners, power forward and center. Kind of a value dart at power forward or at the util spot, probably. Probably not your primary center in most of those. Mamba says, damn, I'm getting a lot of value at the point guard spot. We were kind of seeing it that way early. DK, right, Mama? So, like, it depends on whether you're talking about, like, the dumpster dive 3,200 types. Obviously, this is not great. Jesus. Shake Milton, how does he even pull that off? You wouldn't think with a 10-point projection anybody would be pulling this off. That shows the power of the price. But, yeah, assuming you're talking when you say values about, like, 5,100 for Kyle Lowry, 4,700 for, like, Josh Richardson, just guys in that price range. Gary Trent at 41 is not great, but is there. 56 for Malik Monk, 53 for IQ. If you're talking about those guys when you say values, then yeah. If not, I don't know. Bam playing? Thank God. That would have been messy. I didn't want to have to think about that. Paul C. Surprised Terry Rozier doesn't show up better. Terry Rozier right here. Not bad. And 15% of winners on DraftKings for 7,400. Point guard and shooting guard. He's 79 on the FanDuel slate. Kind of lands more as an also ran over on FanDuel. But not bad. 0.99 FanDuel points, a little bit better points per minute on DraftKings for a little bit less. Feels like Lowry's a lock button, says Mamba. I could definitely see it. And like I said, I was initially inclined to give him a little bit more juice than that 28 minutes, which if he got it, would push this up even further. But yeah, for 51, I have no issues going to that. 0.81 DraftKings points per minute. Just projected out. It's not like we're going crazy with the projection here. I've got him a little bit higher than that 0.81. What's the actual that I've got him at? .94, but with the expectation of significant potential uptick in rates, plus picking up a handful of possessions. I can definitely see it. Akez, Martin, and J. Rich, too much Miami in one lineup. Probably not. Anytime it's like three, value to mid-range types, it's fine. I don't love it with those three players specifically. I would hold also just to let's get confirmation on what the heck his minutes are going to look like. We'll have that before lock. But I don't think, Trey, as long as you're spending the rest of that money wisely, I don't think that's necessarily a showstopper. Yeah, Chuck hits on the Charlotte guys. They're just losing a couple possessions in my model going up against the Knicks. It's a low total overall. The Knicks also big favorites. No LaMelo in that game. That could support the idea of some Terry Rozier upside for sure. And he's showing it. It's not like he's without value here. Basically right on his projection, 35.2 in 36 minutes. He's a .99 player. Let's call that right on point. So just got him as who he is, when technically maybe he should get a little bit of a haircut. And that is accounting for a little bit of the difference with no LaMelo. What else we got? Amba thinks Chet and Şengün will be the highest scoring of the slate. Didn't really see much Chet. Where was he? Not really landing. Not that he's got a bad projection by any means. 37-point projection on DraftKings for 7,800. 4.85 points per dollar. So 1.27 points per minute player on that site. On FanDuel, he's a 1.30 points per minute player. Put up 51 and 31 the other day. Yeah, I mean, he's a high-end per minute guy that's not priced at the luxury item price tag yet. So I can definitely see it. In terms of, is he going to be the highest actual raw scorer on the slate? I don't know about that. We do have some pretty significant names on this slate, like Luka, Sabonis, Giannis, SGA. SGA we didn't really talk about at all. 5% on DraftKings, 10-5. Another guy that's a luxury item, right? When we get to these guys, these are your guys that when I'm talking about luxury items. I don't want to actually include Şengün in that, although he's earned it so far this year. I was going to say, like, these guys plus these two guys, maybe a. I don't necessarily want to include Cat and Şengün in that yet. Şengün is probably more viable for it than Cat is right now. But these big ticket items, these are the guys that you just drop into those spots, those values, those big salary spots that are created by playing a lot of those value guys. And you can see the returns. The average of those 7 players in their last game in fantasy points was 53.5. They're projected for an average of 50.56. So they slightly outperform their median projections. But you get any one of those guys on the right night, the 9s, the 10s, you expect the 70, 75 point ceiling. The higher price, the bigger ticket items like Giannis, you expect, like Luka, you need the 80, 85 point games to get you those wins. But that's what you're paying for. Not a lot of players have that kind of upside. Let's zip this thing up. Let's pull up Ace Mind. Take a quick look at some of those lineups from those last sims. Shrink this window down low. Come on. Once again, our sims brought to you by acemind.io. There's a lot of Kyle Lowry for you. That ought to make you feel better. A lot of Kyle Lowry, a lot of Jaime Jaquez. Not surprising. This is the rerun, the one I did during the show. This is DraftKings. 100K to first, 31,000 entries, 400K fadeaway. I always do the sims against the biggest tournament, the 100K, whatever the first on DraftKings, the 50K, whatever the first on FanDuel. If you're playing the large buy-in, small field tournaments, it pays to rerun your sims for those specific tournaments, which these tools allow you to do. Because the field size obviously has a very, very big impact on some of these things. Some Darius Garland, some Donovan Mitchell cracking through in the top lineups here. Here's some SGA. Glad to see him, even though we didn't really touch on him that much. A lot of Lowry, though. So Lowry, Jaime Jaquez, really critical values. RJ, for a guy who came up as suddenly valuable as he is, in these top, 20-ish lineups, he's 1, 2, 3, 4, handful. So not hitting the very, very top as often. But again, this is just looking at the top 20 out of the top 150 in that one sim. Mixed bag at the forward spot for sure. Cat in the top lineup. This is a nice back end of this lineup. Mitch, Steph, Cat, and Pirtle. It's kind of interesting. RJ and Mitch in the... Boy, talk about needing one Nick to get there. Have RJ and Mitch in that top lineup. Yikes. Definitely pretty Starsy Scrubsy. It looks like at power forward there's still a decent amount of these lineups. You're getting either Cam Johnson or you're getting some of the Jaquez shares there. But it still looks like even when it's not one of those guys, there's some slow-mo here, there's some RJ Barrett, there's some Naz Reid, Draymond, who's not crazy expensive. It still looks like that stays as kind of a value-ish spot. Most of the Jaquez shares are dropping in at small forward like we thought. That's where more of the RJ shares are. Center stays fairly strong with a lot of Vooch, some Mitch, some Clint Capellas. More Vooch than I expected to see. Well, actually, no. It's only a couple at the top. There's really, 4 here? Good amount of Mitch. Freddie Van Vliet, all over the board. Darius Garland, all over the board. Oops. A lot of Darius Garland. So some good-looking lineups here. Some solid winners. That top one was winning $317 on average across those 50,000 sims. Not bad. Very strong ROI marks. 0.2% win rate. This is what we got to keep in mind. Even when we're talking about across all these giant sims, you're talking about 0.2% of a probability to win the tournament. So there is no, that was supposed to win. This was such a good lineup, but how did it not win? That does not exist. How is it not competitive? That exists. This happened, so therefore that happened, and that's why my lineup wasn't good. Sure. But this should have won? Never. Mom is going to swap Curry and Towns at the top for SGA and Şengün. See at the top. I don't mind that at all, my friend. New York Knicks value. There you go. Power, not that I've heard yet. Power S, did they suspend Giddey? Giddey's in here. He's just not showing. I have Giddey at 30 FanDuel points. 29-minute projection. Give him actually a little bit better than his season-long rate so far. More in line with what he's been over the last year and change. But no, unless something changed in the last little bit, I haven't seen it. If it did, we'll catch up to it in the next little bit when I jump off and update projections. Let me pull up the FanDuel results here. On FanDuel. Good amount of Freddie. Good amount of Jalen Brunson. I like both of those plays. Some Kyle Lowry coming through on FanDuel as well. Lowry, Brunson, landing in a lot of these. Lowry, Brunson, Lowry, Dinwiddie, Van Vliet, Brunson. That's the one. I like that combo. That's a combo I thought that I was going to see a lot before that Miami value changed. But a lot of Jalen and Lowry. Good amount of Freddie Van Vliet and Lowry. Here's a Freddie Van Vliet and Darren Fox. I kind of like that. OG Anunoby was showing more value on FanDuel. It makes sense that he's here. Some Mikal Bridges in there. Some Gordon Hayward, as we talked about, maintained his value on FanDuel. There's a Jaime Jaquez, but not many. There's another one. There's another one up at the top. But not filthy with them at that $6,000 price on FanDuel. A little bit of Alexander Walker, some RJ Barrett for sure. Kevin Huerter was pulling value on the FanDuel slate. Scotty Barnes, I'm glad to see him. I don't know that I love the Scotty and Pascal in that lineup. Who else is in here? Garland, Lowry, Dunk. It's all right. I don't know. Eyeballing it, I don't love it, but obviously it came through and had a $110 average winnings and a 1,200% ROI. So that's good. FanDuel top winner, 0.18%. A little bit less likely on the FanDuel slate. Mitch, Bam, plenty of Bam. A little bit of Şengün here. Some Vooch. A lot of Bam at the center spot on FanDuel. Glad he's playing. Good amount of Mobley. Some Trey Lyles was an important piece of the value puzzle on FanDuel. Domantas Sabonis is an important piece on the FanDuel slate. Looks like, as suspected, most of the Sabonis shares land at power forward rather than at center. There's one. Yeah, in the top, whatever that is, call that 20 lineups. I didn't count it. One Sabonis share at center versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and change, 7 and change in the power forward spots. So definitely, and that stays consistent too as we scroll down. Not a lot of Sabonis in the center spot. A lot more of them in the power forwards. Something to bear in mind as you're building lineups. Something to tinker with though too. If you're a hand builder, you're just building one. Maybe you make that weird pivot and go a different direction, zig where they zag. You're putting Sabonis in the center, and then you're taking two of the different differentiated power forwards, and that does give you a good power forward combo. Like Evan Mobley, Pascal Siakam, Domantas Sabonis. That's not bad. You can't tell me that doesn't compete with Trey Lyles, Evan Mobley, Bam. Siakam, Scotty, Alperen Şengün is pretty good. But that's an interesting way to attack, just in terms of I built one lineup to throw in against the field. Just do something different. But overall, the preponderance of lineup should definitely have Sabonis at the power forward spot. Outside of that, a lot of things we've fallen kind of where we thought. Good amount of Huerter and Hayward and RJ. So many players in. That's the thing. That's what it is about this slate. There's a lot of players coming up that are just like total wipeout players that disappoint on a regular basis, and when they disappoint bad. Like Hayward, like Timmy Hardaway, like Kevin Huerter, like OG Anunoby, like RJ Barrett. All these guys coming up pretty relevant across all these lineups. I like the guard positions a lot. I'm comfy with a lot of Freddie Van Vliet, Kyle Lowry at a good price, Jalen Brunson. and Darius Garland shares. It's this middle part that gets me a little bit upset. Josh Richardson, Andrew Wiggins, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Dylan Brooks. Oh my God. Is there more of an epitome of what I'm talking about than Dylan Brooks? And he's in the top 2 lineups. Not comfy shooting guard, small forward on FanDuel. Power forward, center, point guard, a lot more comfy. Anyway, fun slate. Should be a good one. Hour 50 into the show, 35 people still here hanging out. You guys rock. I just scared the shit out of Joker. I picked up my phone to look at that, dropped it on the keyboard. Joker freaked out, ran out from underneath the desk. Sounds like time to end the show. Good luck out there, gang. Hit the like button for me. Hit the subscribe. Follow the @rotoscouts Twitter handle. If you get a chance, still pinned on that, the congratulations tweet for our pal XX Cubs fan Dennis Forgy in the YouTube chat. Give that a like. Give that a retweet. Definitely gets a little bit of attention. Couple eyeballs on the Twitter handle on the site. Other than that, I appreciate it. You guys rock. Good luck out there. Somebody go win something tonight. I'll see you tomorrow.